Hello and welcome to DCP SideQuest episode number 126, the slowest news day ever episode. There's absolutely nothing to talk about.
No, nothing
at all.
Not a thing. That's the
It's
episode.
been like this
Thanks
for a
watching.
month, frankly. I mean, I haven't heard any news for like, I don't know.
What a slow 2022. Hardly anything
right.
happening in the gaming industry.
Have they
Right. In the world.
forgotten
Just
video
smooth
games?
sailing.
Watts is currently in the mountain today because
Exactly.
she's super ripped. What can I say? She makes Eric's wish he could bench what Watts could bench, right?
It's true. It is very true. One day, I hope to bench just a fraction of that. Just a fraction.
So where do we start, guys?
Oh, man. I mean, should we start with the Bungie Sony stuff?
Might as well. Also, this is a little strange for us because we're obviously going to deep dive into this 4 days later on DCP Live.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you're getting like a sneak peek.
Yeah.
But I mean, there will be more news to talk about then. Like, once everybody has a chance to unpack this happened to what? How many hours ago this got announced?
Yeah, like 2 hours ago, something like that.
Yeah, so it's still like initial, like, whoa.
So in 4 days, they'll announce
What's this mean?
the special blue shader and the blue
The blue
emblem
shader, right? Yeah.
that you can only get if you have a PS5.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So, like, obviously, Bungie was tied with Microsoft for a long time. You know, they made a Halo, and Halo became like the darling franchise of Microsoft. And then they said they wanted to get away from that whole experience. They didn't like, or at least I'm paraphrasing, but they didn't want to be under the corporate overlord type of thing that Microsoft was. And so they became independent and largely became one of the biggest independent studios, right? Right?
Yeah.
I would
Pretty,
say.
yeah.
I'm sure there's bigger independent studios, possibly, but Bungie's huge at this point.
Yeah.
And now now it's PlayStation, Sony time. It's
Yeah, well, don't forget Activision in the middle there. What's
yeah,
one
you're
of
right.
the craziest
totally
thing
skipped
about
that.
Bungie's history is their Houdini-like ability to like get bought and then somehow escape ownership twice.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, so they did that with
This is how they
Activision.
secretly make money.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so they kept all the rights with their Activision deal, and it was basically like you said, a Houdini type of situation. And it looks like they're doing the same thing where they're keeping all the rights and creative control. They get to control what platforms and stuff that are happening, and it's almost like an investment type of scenario with Sony right now. It's what it appears to be with this initial news push that's happening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
I
one of
mean,
those
the
things-
curious thing is, what do these companies get out of this relationship, right? It's like, why would Sony give, what is it, $3.6 billion, to own Bungie? Like, what are they getting out of that?
Is that I didn't see the number. Is that what they're?
Yeah, I think it was 3.6, 3.7, something like that. It was like one of those. Yeah, so I'm wondering whether it's one of those things, like whether it's a play for the future titles, because anytime these things happen, right, there's always very specific wording, because like they released that image where they were like, one community, multi-platform, Destiny 2 will stay on all current platforms and expand to new platforms. They then said, like, Bungie maintains full creative control and publishing independence of the Destiny universe, and every player should have an amazing Destiny experience, no matter. So obviously, I mean, the big focus is Destiny because that's what they're working on. But like, anytime these deals happen, it's always interesting to like pay very close attention to like that specific wording, because they're like, obviously, Destiny is out on all the platforms. They're not going to suddenly pull it from those ones. But maybe Sony are like making that play for like, oh, what's next? Like, what? Because there was that the kind of rumored other title they're supposed to be working on like in the future. I think it was like Codename Matter or something like that, right? So like maybe Sony are thinking like, well, we see what Bungie are working on after this, and that's what we really. I mean, obviously Destiny is huge anyway, but maybe they're like, that's what we really want to do, because then they can pull the whole Starfield thing where it's like Xbox is like, well, you want to play Starfield? Now you got to come to us.
Right. Yeah, that's the impression I get too, because they've said that everything that's been announced, so all the way up to 2024 with the Lightfall and all that, is technically is locked in to how they're going to publish and release stuff. But they're definitely not saying after that, and they're definitely not talking about future IPs, what could happen with that stuff. And also there was that $100 million investment from NetEase as well for other IPs that were in development.
Yeah.
Right? So,
which was now several years ago.
Yeah, like 3, right? 3 years ago they had
It's
that.
around the time Destiny 2 launched, right?
Oh yeah, it might have been during that. Yeah. I definitely have my timeline skewed slightly on that. So it just makes a very interesting landscape for what this really means. Like, obviously, Sony's not going to buy a studio and then just be like philanthropic about it.
Yeah, they obviously want something out of it, definitely.
Yeah, they want a piece of whatever is happening with this. And maybe it's like the exclusivity on future IP stuff that they're working on. Maybe they've seen some of the incredibleness that's coming out of it, and they're like, they want that to be an exclusive.
Yeah, although having said that, I forgot there was the Q&A thing. It does actually say here, like, Bungie has future games in development. Will they now become PlayStation exclusive? And it says, no, we want the worlds we are creating to extend to anywhere people play games. So we will continue to So it seems, like, to take back what I was saying before, it seems like, despite that would be, for me, that would be the sensible business play. Apparently, given that they're still self-publishing, it seems very much like they actually still want to maintain that, like, their future games will also be multi-platform. So that does beg the question, what do Sony get from it?
Watts has said that Watts is in chat and she's saying that the main reason is that Bungie is the only company that has managed to create a successful, like, long-term live service game.
Mm-hmm.
So if Sony wants that expertise for future projects within the company, like, I mean, they just bought the only people that have done it successfully.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and here's the other thing too. Like, I get that they can say that this is where they're planning on going with the future, and they've said that everything that's been announced with Destiny is set up to be cross-platform and all that. But things can change post what they've already announced. You know, like in 2024, they could be like, actually, we're going to make this a PlayStation thing for this. Like, just because they're saying that now, like, management and stuff could change, or ideals can shift it around. So that's why, like, I think it's good to be cautiously optimistic about this stuff if you are not already invested in the PlayStation platform. You know, if you're a PlayStation user, like, makes no difference at this point, right? Like, if you play Destiny and you're on PS5,
Yeah, maybe it is. I mean, like what I said in chat, maybe it is just to play for, like, their experience with live service stuff, like, because obviously, live service is still that thing where, when like Destiny first came out, like, everyone was trying to do them, and, like, companies did them with, like, varying success, but obviously, Destiny is still standing and has weathered the storm. So maybe it's one of those things, like, maybe Sony internally have their own projects, and maybe their players, like, oh, we'll bring Bungie in and they can help advise and kind of, like, help us in that way. So maybe that'll be there. It's definitely going to be like a
Sony could be thinking to themselves, long term, maybe the long term play is no longer to be the platform owner. Maybe it's to be the software developer across all the platforms. Is it possible? Like, I mean, we've seen them branch out into PC. What if their future is, we're not going to necessarily be PlayStation, or we're not going to be the hardware company. We're going to really lean into the software side of things.
Be a pretty big shift from where it's been. And I feel like that'd be relatively recent. Maybe their tests with, like, God of War on PC and Horizon Zero Dawn on PC have shown that they are really missing out on a lot of money in the market. And maybe they're realizing with those kind of, like, tests, being that, like, they need to branch out beyond just one platform. So maybe it is a future ecosystem that, like, this platforms are going to become relatively irrelevant, and it's mostly, like, the software. I hope. Personally, I prefer that, because, like, right now I play Destiny on multiple platforms. I play it on the Xbox in the other room. I play it on PS5 in here. Sometimes I play on PC. I used to play it on PC exclusively until the consoles came out, the new ones. So yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. there's a lot. A lot to this. All right, I want to start a countdown timer though, to when Sony Houdini's the fuck, or when Bungie Houdini's the fuck out of Sony.
Bungie gets out of. I mean, they bought it. right?
So Activision didn't technically buy Bungie, right?
Correct. There was more like a publishing deal. Right?
Yeah. We'll see.
I want to say, like, I mean, not the timing thing, but like, who do you think is going to get bought next? What's the next acquisition going to happen?
My heart is so invested in somebody buying Konami to get those IPs out of the pachinko hell that they're in now. Like, that's all I can answer every time. I'm just like, somebody please buy Konami. Somebody who wants to make video games, please buy Konami.
Maybe. The other thing. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, Konami would be like a really good one. I'm wondering whether would you ever, because you know how like Nintendo in the whole gaming sphere, they just do their own thing, right? Like people make like super powerful consoles, and they're like, we're fine with what we've got. People like do crazy deals. Nintendo like, we're fine with what we've got. Would you ever see like? I personally don't see like an announcement coming in where Nintendo are like, we have purchased this company. Like, it doesn't seem like a very Nintendo thing. I feel like Nintendo are very much like, we're going to sit in our own bubble and do our own thing. Like, do you think they would enter the play, or?
Nintendo seems to be playing a different game than Sony and Microsoft. Microsoft and Sony aren't playing the same game, but Nintendo's playing like a totally different fucking game. Like, they have really caught... They have caught like a specific part of the video game market that is extraordinarily loyal to them specifically. And like they're just playing a different game. Like they're not competing for like the third party deals. They're not out there like trying to get Call of Duty on there. When the Activision got bought, everybody's like, is Call of Duty not going to come to the PlayStation? Call of Duty makes millions of dollars for the PlayStation. Nobody said, what's Nintendo going to do that Activision get bought? Because Nintendo doesn't fucking care. I mean, I'm sure they do, you know, like it sent ripples across the gaming, universe in huge ways, but it definitely didn't have as much of an impact to the Switch as it did to the PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Nintendo's just doing the long play. They're just waiting for Sony and Xbox to buy everything, and then they'll buy Sony and Xbox.
Just gobble them
They'll come in with they'll come in with their Bowser coins, their Mario coins, and they'll be like, "Ba-ding! You now all belong to us." And that's it.
They're definitely like old school Japanese company, like business as usual. Don't deviate from the path, or don't deviate from the formula too much, which is good and bad. Like, it's good because they make some great IPs. It's bad that their hardware is like technically old and they're still selling brand new versions.
Yeah, but it still does what they want to do perfectly well, right? It's like,
that's what I'm saying. That's the old school mentality. It's like business as usual. It's working. Don't change it.
They still remind me of a toy company in a lot of ways, right? Is they make things that are supposed to spark joy and be fun and playful, right?
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily,
they do successfully every time.
They do, absolutely. Every time it's a stretch.
Nintendo have done no wrong.
But yeah, I mean, they're definitely competing on a different level than Sony or Microsoft. Microsoft like really seems to be wanting to go after like services. Like that seems to be their focus. We want subscriptions. We want to compete with, Netflix, Amazon, Google.
Right. So let's look at this timeline. Destiny left the Game Pass in December, and then a little over a month later, suddenly they're being bought by Sony. Is Sony making a Game Pass? I mean, they're going to have an answer to Xbox Game Pass.
They are working on one. It's called Project Spartan or something like that.
Is that they
are working on one?
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and one of the things that people are saying is that it's going to this is a rumor, is that it's going to rely heavily on backward compatibility, and that you'll be able to play basically any PlayStation game on it, from PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Will Crypto Bros be able to insert their NFTs?
Let's hope so. We don't want Crypto Bros to go uninserted.
Sorry, I don't mean to derail the conversation.
The heroes we need right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Spartacus. I called it Spartan, right? It's Spartacus.
Spartacus is the name of it. Like that's, I could see that being one of the biggest polls. If Sony is making serious effort towards making a Game Pass to compete with Xbox's Game Pass, because I mean at this point, Xbox Game Pass went from like, oh, that's interesting to, oh, this is getting better, to now it's like, this is the way right now.
That's not Sony's core competency though, right? Maybe that's one of the reasons they're looking for Bungie's help, but like they've always had inferior network structure, like since the beginning of the PlayStation Online with the PS3, it's always been second fiddle to Xbox Live, right? And that's just Microsoft's corporate structure is all about. Like, we invented Windows, we invented networking, for fuck's sake.
It's one of their core businesses is actually putting together software that does all this stuff. Sometimes not as good, but they do like, they put together the languages and all the development tools for that stuff. I think, doesn't Sony third party with Oracle? I think I could be completely wrong on that, but I feel like they use a company like Oracle to do all their databasing and stuff. So, or their,
the
services.
PlayStation Online service has gotten leagues better. Even I think the PlayStation 5 is much better than the PlayStation 4 was with those. Remember those slow ass downloads to download a game on PlayStation 4? It was hard to believe how slow it would take.
Yeah.
How long it would take.
However, when I switched out of Comcast, I didn't notice the same slow speed. So part of me thinks that Comcast was throttling Sony the whole time, which I don't know.
That sounds like the Comcast I know.
Now that sounds like Comcast. The service you can expect. It's interesting thinking about how many IPs do you think they need to make a compelling Game Pass? I know that's a loaded question, but like,
I think they do it just based on the ones they have. Honestly,
do you think
if you could buy in for $15 a month, and you knew that you're like all the Sony first party games and their third party stuff was going to come to Spartacus, you'd probably do it, right? You might wait to not do it this month until like the first game started launching. But as soon as they did, and you're like, do I want to pay $60 for God of War 2, or do I want to just subscribe to Spartacus?
I would sign up immediately. Like, it would be a no-brainer for me because I already do that with Game Pass, Xbox Game Pass. Like, it's a no-brainer. Of course, I would just play those games on the Game Pass.
My fear is that we're going to end up in a similar situation to we are in TV. Is, we got rid of cable and we started getting like all these awesome streaming services, but now my streaming service bill is starting to approach what it was when I had cable TV, right? It's like I've got Hulu, I've got Netflix, I got Amazon Prime, I have Paramount Plus, I have HBO. I'm like, each one of these is somewhere between $10 and $20, and that that monthly bill is just creeping up. And there used to be 6 networks on Hulu, but each one of those split off from Hulu and created their own streaming service. So instead of paying $15 a month to Hulu, I'm now that money to get the same amount of content is now spread between $4 to $15.
But you can unsubscribe at any time and not have to do like a year contract with these, Comcast.
100%. 100%. It's still better than it was when I had cable. My cable bill was up to $260 a month before I said enough's enough, and I just quit. And then they started raising my my internet bill, right? My internet bill was $60 out of that when I quit cable. And by the time I left my cable company and got fiber optic internet, it was $160 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they know that they can just, what's your option until you finally have a fiber option, right? Until fiber showed up, then you're like, later, nerds.
Fuck you. Fuck you. Especially fuck you. I'm out.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if Sony did a Game Pass, I would sign up day one. I'd be like, yep, because I plan on buying all these games anyways. And if I could just get them through a Game Pass service, because for whatever reason, in these type of scenarios, I don't need I don't have like the desire to have a digital library that like I have access to. That, I mean, I need the internet anyways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was with you on that until they shut down the Wii, and all of those games just got lost.
Yeah.
That's when I said, oh shit, like if I want access to these games, like I'm gonna have to get them when they're fresh. Gotta get them while they're hot, you know.
What about backwards compatibility though with Sony? Because if they are doing good, if they're going to do backwards compatibility right, then that's not going to be an issue, right? That's a Nintendo problem. That's an old school Nintendo issue where they didn't support their software moving forward correctly.
Yeah, and Sony actually they supported the PlayStation 1 up through the PlayStation 3. Now, I don't know that that's a rumor, by the way, that they're going to do that. I don't know that the PlayStation 5 can actually emulate the PlayStation 3. Like that is still up in the air. It still takes a super high-end PC to emulate the PlayStation 3 properly, and it's not 100% compatibility. It's PlayStation 3. That thing was a real mess when they made it, and it's really hard to emulate
architecture.
That cell processor was kind of a thing.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, but I think Spartacus could be successful just based on the properties Sony owns.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely the compelling thing, right? Because whenever you have like the discussions about like, you know, picking your console and stuff, and it's like if multi-platform isn't really like if you're not worried about the multi-platform games and you're generally speaking like leaning more towards the first-party stuff, like generally speaking, people will be like, oh, well, Sony's got more, you know, IPs than Microsoft and whatnot. So I feel like if they just had their you know, their equivalent and you got access to, you know, your God of Wars, your Last of Us, your like all those different things like that. I mean, that on its own would be a compelling package.
The only problem is it's usually like once every 6 months or so, or maybe 3 to 4 months, right? If they had enough indies in there,
well, that's why they want live service games, Tefty. That's why they bought Bungie, so that now God of War 2 can be a live service game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually really what they're doing. They're converting God of War into a live service game with Bungie. That's what it is, yeah.
Please don't make it like another generation of like 20 million games that just never finish. I can't do it anymore. I need to be able to finish my games, put them on the shelf, uninstall them from my PlayStation because there's not enough hard drive space to keep all these games on there. Please.
Right.
I can't do it.
When you have fiber optic internet, when you got fiber optic internet, you can just delete and download at your heart's content. It's amazing.
Unfortunately,
sure, it is quick.
My download speed is still only 50 megabytes.
Ooh.
And on a windy day, my internet cuts out. And if it rains, my internet cuts out. I don't live in a forest, by the way, but I might as well. So it's rough.
What do you think?
Speaking of forest, what are you talking about
on the acquisition? Then I know we already kind of talked about it, but like, do you think like another big one is gonna suddenly get scooped up?
I hope not. To be honest, I don't want one video game company at the end of all this. I want there to be multiple.
Feels like it's going that way, right?
With competition, yeah. Like I don't want this. Like I kind of like. I feel like I didn't get like real upset about Activision getting bought because fucking that company was just full of
hollowed out.
Yeah, it needed it, right? And I do have some trust in from what I've seen from Phil Spencer that he is kind of, you know, the businessman that, you know, he's there to make a lot of money for Microsoft, but he is a gamer, you know. He does seem to get it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to lose like the competition of these companies. Like I don't want one megacorp.
I feel you on that, but it feels like it's partially going in that direction, at least in some sense.
Except for Konami. Somebody buy Konami.
I just hope that like if it does go in that direction, that at least like the good companies keep buying them. Like, because my fear is that like
they're only good right now, though, right? It's like Phil Spencer runs Microsoft now, but you could get another, you know, idiot in charge of Xbox in 10 years, and then what? You know, like he's like, I'm just going to shut down all of these companies that we just acquired.
Yeah, I mean that is right, but I'm thinking like in the short term, I don't want someone like Facebook with a lot of money coming over and be like, "Hey, we've just purchased." Like, imagine if your Konami dream was like Facebook were like, "We've purchased Konami, and we're gonna bring all those games to the metaverse," and you're like, "No, this is not what I wanted. This is like they're like you can play Metal Gear Solid, but only in the metaverse." I'm like, no. So like, please, if it's gonna be anyone.
When you talk about
you have to
Facebook,
you have to buy 2 NFTs to play Metal Gear Solid 6.
Oh my god, dude! Facebook buying things would actually make me freak out.
I think I'll find a new hobby.
Imagine if Meta was like, we're buying Activision, and then they're like, oh, we bought.
Well, that was the rumor, right? It's like they were looking at Activision.
Yeah, it would be so many titles.
But
I feel
Facebook
like
was looking at them.
Be like, wow.
Maybe Facebook is the big play. Maybe after them, they're going to buy everyone and put everything in the metaverse.
Eric, how would you feel if Meta purchased Nintendo?
I like the way you say meta.
I would. I would cry. I would cry. And you know what?
Would you delete your Pokemons?
I think I would. You know what? Like, if it got to the point where it's like the only way you can play Breath of the Wild is in the metaverse and they turn Link into this horrible, like, weird chibi looking Facebook metaverse, I'd be like, you know what? I'm done with games. Like, I don't play games anymore. I just go to the gym. Like, it's done.
You're like, your days of you're only focusing on getting swole at that point. You're trying to get as swole as Watts, right?
Yep, exactly. I go and get back into all the retro stuff like bro, and I'll be like, I'm just gonna go and get all the old Nintendo stuff, play that, because the future, I don't like it.
You're gonna see Eric's cruise around town, picking up CRT TVs.
Yes, calling CRT TVs and be like, this is the prime.
You bench the CRT TVs.
This TV looks amazing. It's a HD CRT, and it looks unfriggin' real, man. It looks unreal.
It's 2-in-1, man. You lift weights with the CRTs and you old school game.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love it.
Eric, so you've been playing Pokemon. What's the name of this game?
Legends Arceus. Yeah,
Legends Arceus. How are you feeling about it?
I have, yeah. So I am. So I haven't finished it. Like some of the team have finished it, and they've kind of played the way through. And like I'm in this weird conflicted state with this Pokemon game, right? Sometimes I sit down and I'm really, really enjoying it. Other times I'm just like, this isn't for me. So like, to kind of sort of set the scene for anyone that hasn't played it. So this one's very different to your conventional Pokemon game in that it doesn't have the normal structure. I mean, obviously you still start and get a starter and stuff, but it's not like I'm going on an adventure to go and fight all the gym leaders, to fight the Elite Four at the end and like make my team. Instead, you are teleported into this world in a kind of isekai fashion, and like you are back in time. So this is kind of like pre a lot of the Pokemon games where obviously like, you know, PCs haven't been invented. So you don't have like Bill's Box or things like that for storing Pokemon. And back then, a lot of people don't have Pokemon. Instead, that like Pokemon are sort of in the wild and sort of see much more like, you know, wild creatures and stuff. So you are part of this group called the Survey Corps, where your primary thing is to go and like study Pokemon, but not in like a Pokemon Snap, like I'm going to take photos. You still study them by like battling them and catching them.
That's how I study stuff too, by beating the shit out of it.
Exactly. The thing about it, right, is like initially, like so my first impressions, I really like it. In fact, it's weird because prior to launch, every time they showed stuff in the trailers, I feel like they did a really bad job of showcasing the game, because I never watched a single trailer for Arceus and was like, I'm excited for this, because they just made it look really weird. Playing it, it's actually fantastic, and it's actually like a breath of fresh air into Pokemon, because I love the traditional Pokemon franchise, but it is obviously much the same thing. It's just like do the same thing with new Pokemon, new areas and stuff like that. This time around, there's elements of like Breath of the Wild, not in quite the grand scale, but there's definitely this sort of like, oh, I'm gonna go and like explore this random world. Even some of like the sounds, they just sound like Breath of the Wild sounds. So like there's parts of it where I just like being in the world, and it feels a lot more kind of how you would expect Pokemon to like organically play. You know, you could just like throw your Pokemon out and it can be standing, walking around with you. You kind of go out and catch stuff, and the pace of it is quite nice at first. Where my gripes come in is and everyone's had different experiences for this. Maybe it's because I was sort of semi trying to golden line it, but I found that there were like weird progression blocks, because what basically happens in this is like you go into a map, so it is much more like say Monster Hunter, where you have a hub town, then you go into these different zones as opposed to just freely walking everywhere. So you go into these hub zones, and like you then have to sort of level up and complete some research tasks, and then you have to get a star in order to get to the next zone. So the flow sounds all right, but then I kept on getting to the stage where I would get to the point where I didn't have enough XP to then get to the next map. So I then have to go and grind the research zone. Now, in its like basic format, in theory, it's nothing different to a regular Pokemon game, because you go and either battle or you catch Pokemon, which is exactly what I would do in a regular Pokemon game. I go and run in the grass. But weirdly, in Arceus, when it's like, in order for you to progress to the next map, you have to go and fill up this XP bar, which is either done by like catching just umpteen different Pokemon, or just doing arbitrary battles, it weirdly feels different, even though the crux of it is actually the same. You see what I mean?
Feels
It feels like it's exposed to the hidden layer of you have to wait and grind.
Yeah,
to just
chores.
put the bar out there and say no, you got to fill this bar. Like it exposes it.
Yeah, especially considering for me, when I play Pokemon games, like obviously, the more kind of hardcore Pokemon players will like catch umpteen different versions of the same one to get like the perfect stat values. For me, when I catch one Pikachu, I don't need to catch any more Pikachu. But for some of these tasks, it'll be like, oh, catch 3 Bidooфs, catch 10 Bidooфs, catch 25 Bidooфs, and I'm just like, and it's quite fast paced in that, like, you don't always have to do it the traditional Pokemon way where you have to go and get the health down to red and like throw a ball. A lot of the time, you just throw a ball at a Pokemon and it's got full health and you've caught it. So it's not exactly like super slow pace. Like sometimes I literally just walk around, I'm just like throwing balls left, right, and center and just catching like 20 different Pokemon. I'm like, I'm done. But I definitely found that, yeah, for me, I kept on going waves of like, oh, I'm really, really enjoying this. I'm like, I love being in this world. It feels much more like I'm like an actual Pokemon trainer and kind of like experiencing the world. And then I kept on hitting those progression blockers, and I was like, now I hate this bit for a little bit. And then I get to the new map, and I'm like, oh, now this is fun again. I'm catching my Pokemon. You do a little bit of the story. The story's like, I mean, you don't really play Pokemon games for the story. Let's be honest. There's a couple of like slightly weird things. So obviously, if you play Pokemon games before and you kind of expect big gym battles or big trainer battles, you don't get them very often. You won't walk around in the wild and have people like be like, oh, you've looked at me in the eye, you've got a battle, apart from a few very select things later. And then at the end of each of the maps,
like being around Watts.
We must battle.
But then at the end of the like each of the big maps, you have like this big noble Pokemon you need to fight. But it's quite interesting again because it's like, I think this is the thing. I think if you come into it and you've never played a Pokemon game before and you come into it not thinking of it like a Pokemon game, you might have a fantastic time. When you fight these bosses though, like you could obviously do a lot of stuff as like a human. You can interact, you can dodge, you can roll. So you're throwing these like pellets at this boss to like drop its health down, and then you get it to a dizzy state, and then you throw your Pokemon out. So it is quite weird because if you come into it expecting it to be a Pokemon and you're fighting a big boss Pokemon just by throwing little food pellets at it for a while to watch a health bar go down, it's quite weird. But I do also like the fluidity of it because, like, even just down to things like, when you're in a battle, you're not just like rooted to the ground where you're just standing behind your Pokemon waiting for it to attack. You can just walk around. Like, you can just like reposition yourself, like move the camera around and stuff. So there's a lot of like really good elements to it that I actually really like. I think there's like, I'm so happy they did it because I feel like the Pokemon franchise has been quite stale for quite some time. I think there's some absolutely fantastic mechanics in here, but there's still a few things that are just a bit weird. I don't think it has as much life as well because I don't think it's not got like the same sort of multiplayer setup with like battles and stuff. So I don't think it has the same lifespan as a regular Pokemon game. But as them trying to do something different, I think it's quite cool.
Series needs something different, so maybe this is like a chance to experiment outside of the main series, right? And then maybe we'll see some of the more successful things coming into the main series. I've been thinking about picking this one up, and I never play Pokemon, but this one looks interesting enough to at least check it out. The style of it I think is kind of neat, and I like how it doesn't look like. Maybe I'm wrong in this, but my impression is it doesn't look like that you are in that traditional like Pokemon battle where you just see your Pokemon does bubble attack.
Yeah, exactly.
It looks a little more organic and a little fresher, and it looks like fun actually.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, especially if you don't like play them normally, I think you'll actually get some like really good. I'd be really interested to sort of see if someone comes into it and they're not normally a Pokemon player. I feel like you probably get a lot more enjoyment out of it because I feel like maybe some of the stuff that's holding me back is I can't help but make those comparisons all the time, and I'm like, oh, it would have been like this, it would have been like this, and it's like if you just look at it as a new game, I think it's actually like got some really, really cool mechanics. It's not super deep, but there's definitely some fun to be had there, and I think exactly on that point, like the the organic nature of like the moves and the battles and stuff. Like I would love to see if they took a lot of these mechanics and then in the future they made like a traditional style Pokemon game, but with all of this like freedom to move around and the mechanics and stuff. I honestly think it could be like a fantastic title.
Yeah. I will say, I'm reading chat and I'm seeing a little debate about how the game looks. And like considering it looks like a huge visual downgrade to like a game that came out at launch, like Breath of the Wild. Like it doesn't look nearly as good as Breath of the Wild. Like it's kind of like, man, how much money do you guys just put in your pocket compared to putting it back into development in the Pokemon franchise? Like what's going on at that company? Like somebody's got a big ass yacht, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean it keeps working. So why change too much, right?
Yeah, I guess it'd be nice. It would be nice though, like when they finally started making Pokemon on the Switch, right? Like this was finally we're gonna get Pokemon on the home console. We're finally gonna get them off of the Game Boy or the DS, and like the visual upgrade was so not impressive, I would say, like personally.
Yeah.
And then like what was the last one where like everybody was mad because there's so few Pokemon even included in it? It's a little weird.
They cut down the number of Pokemon from what they had in the past, right? They
I believe so. That was the last one, right?
Yeah.
They've come out with several now on the Switch.
Yeah.
Like there was Let's Go. There was, what was it? White Diamond, Black Pearl.
See, also the Switch is the main. Yeah. The Switch is the main portable platform for them now, because otherwise it would have been the portable platform from before, the 3DS or whatever, So that would have been. I don't think they had plans on upgrading the visuals to look more modern. I think they wanted to keep it mobile.
I don't know. It's just like
it would be nice to see, though. I mean, like you say, because
nice,
because it definitely that's what I mean. Like when I was playing through this game, like there were definitely Breath of the Wildy feels. Because again, I think a lot of it for me just comes from the sounds. There's definitely some sounds that like if you put it over like a Breath of the Wild footage, I would think it belongs in that game. So like there's definitely parts of it. And if there was genuinely a Pokemon game in that vast open, maybe not as open as Breath of the Wild, because it doesn't need to be that open, but like in that visual style with that openness to a degree, it would be so cool, because ultimately that is the fantasy of it, right? Like when you think about the Pokemon fantasy, it's always like, you're a kid who goes on an adventure out into the world to like meet Pokemon and catch them and stuff. And like, the old games obviously, or the traditional games obviously do a good job of that, because you are just roaming the world. But like to have that in like an Arceus style, Breath of the Wild style, like I'm just walking through like visually look like awesome looking fields and forests and stuff. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna be a pass for me.
I think I'm gonna check it out just for funsies. I probably won't put too much time into it, but I'd like to at least see what it's all about.
Nintendo
it's been a long time since I checked into a Pokemon game. I think it was Red and Blue when I
If Nintendo had a Game Pass, I'd download it, play it for an hour, and see if I like it.
They do. It's called Switch Online, and they have
for their current games.
Mario Golf is coming soon for the N64.
For the N64, yeah. Yeah, Game Pass for day one releases from Nintendo.
Yeah.
Nintendo would just be like leaving money on the table if they did that. There's no reason for them to do a Game Pass.
Yeah. I downloaded Bloodborne PSX demake. Have you guys seen this? We've talked about it on the show before. It's Bloodborne for the PlayStation 1, basically. Somebody like demade Bloodborne
lo-fied
in the style of a PlayStation 1 game. Yeah. And it's crazy. I only played it like literally for like 30 seconds because I was getting ready for the show, right? So it's like I just want to see what this looks like and what it feels like. And I was kind of surprised. Maybe there's options for this. There are a lot of options in the menu, but it only uses the D-pad. So it's like PlayStation before the DualShock controller came out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I thought it looks like a PlayStation game. Like they even have like real cool CRT filters on there to get like the good scan line effect and all that. I don't know. I think as a Bloodborne fan, I definitely want to check this out. It runs at 60 frames per second, which is 4 times as many frames per second as the original Bloodborne.
Amazing.
But yeah, I think this is a cool project. I would, if you're at all interested in this, I would hurry up and download it. You know what I'm saying?
Probably about to get yanked.
Yeah.
Sony lawyers are knocking the doors as we speak.
Or Nintendo acquirers.
It's a little much to run on the Switch. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Brian, did you see that game?
I would jump on this right away.
You see that game I sent you on Twitter? An arcade game?
Hell yeah, that racing game.
Yeah, Sega made an ambulance racing game where you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could choose to be two people like running with a stretcher. So you got ambulance 1, ambulance 2, or dude on a stretcher, or the patient on a stretcher, and you guys are going as fast as possible. I was like, this is Briar's game, man. This is amazing.
Yeah, I was looking on MAME to see if I could find it because he didn't tell me the name of it. I guess I should have just jumped on Google and said,
I literally
ambulance
Googled
racer.
Yeah, I did that and it popped up. I was like, wow, because I thought it was fake. When I saw the tweet, I was like, this can't be real. I was like, this is real? This was an arcade game? What?
I want to see if it's in MAME because it'd be super fun to play. Yeah. I wonder if it's ever been a home console game. It didn't look like something that would be super hot selling. Not quite a Crazy Taxi kind of
It's like you're drinking beer, you go to the arcade. Whoa, drive an ambulance? Sure, I'll play that for a little bit.
Yeah.
That's the market.
I did check out. Have you guys heard of Fightcade?
No.
Fightcade is it's a service online, and what it allows you to do is play a ton of 2-player retro games. Obviously, it's geared around fighting games. Like, so if you want to play Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo online, like against other people, your options are kind of limited. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's a super fun game, but like, what would you do to play that? Well, Fightcade it's an emulation kind of front end that pretty easily to set up too. It took me literally like 5 minutes to set this up this morning. It was the first time I ever did it. You download the software and then you quickly search how to get Fightcade ROMs, and you're pretty much done with that in about 10 seconds. And it's got 8,000 multiplayer games in it.
Wow.
Like everything from like Mario Kart to like any 2-player game, Windjammers. Like if you could think of a 2-player game that you'd like to play with people, retro inspired, it is almost always in there. Like nothing I could think of. And then some stuff you wouldn't even think of, like Super Mario Brothers was in there. I'm like, well, I guess, yeah, you'd want to play that 2-player sometimes. Sure. If you're, you share a controller or whatever. Yeah, it's a really cool service. And, it's free. And like, if you're at all interested in slightly older fighting games, MAME is cool for that kind of stuff. But frankly, it doesn't run like fighting games in a way that you want to play them that much. And there's no online, right? And like to be able to play those older games online is really fun. And this is
it seems really cool.
Super quick and easy way to get up and running on a PC.
Nice.
The only problem I had with it is like you can't just control it from your joystick. Like, so what you want in a situation like this is to, click Fightcade in your computer, then lean back and just use your joystick for the rest of everything. But really, what you got to do is like, search for the game you want with a keyboard, then join a lobby, then click on like the person that you want to send a fight request to, and then the game boots up, and then you can be on your joystick. Like,
right.
It's really keyboard and mouse interface until you're actually fighting somebody. And then when your match is over, the game ends and you're back to a keyboard and mouse. It'd be really nice if they could just integrate the joystick and the buttons, like an A and B button for most everything. And then like if you need to like do anything with your account or something, to go to the joystick. Like it'd be really nice if they could integrate the joystick better. It's a cool service though.
It looks like I just noticed on the website they seem to have like a replay feature, like with like a little sort of like leaderboards and stuff where you can like watch other people's replays and stuff.
Yeah, you can even watch live matches like that you're not in. Like if you just want to spectate a match, you can just watch it, and it boots up the game.
Oh,
you're just watching. Like
that's really cool.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of the video I watched, but if you just Google how to set up Fightcade, I think it's on version 2, so Fightcade 2. Like it's you're up and running in 2 minutes. It's super fast and easy, and cool.
Very cool. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Anything else this week for stuff? End of January.
No, I mean,
Yeah, there's not a great because it's the end of the other stuff coming out this week will be Dying Light is this week, so Dying Light 2. That's the
right.
next.
Dying Light is this
That's
week.
our next. Yeah, that's this one, and then obviously next week is
Sifu
into Sifu and Lost Ark.
Yeah, Lost Ark, right?
Which is going to be exciting, and then we're into Horizon.
You're going deep into Lost Ark, right?
Yeah. I think it's again it's a weird thing where like there's just so much stuff going on that I'm super looking forward to Lost Ark. I've been looking forward to this for like such a long time, but I'm also just like, it's an MMO. I'm tired. There's a lot of hours, but it's gonna be
That's my only concern about it. Like, I don't know if I can suddenly sink 4 million hours into a game right before Destiny 2 expansion drops. Witch Queen is coming. It's like,
yeah, I feel like for this one because I've done leveled like so many characters or like in the various like betas and stuff. Like we know that I can golden line 0 to 50 or 0 to 60, and I think you can do it in about like 20 maybe 30 hours, something like that. So the kind of to get to end game to the point where I can then start like doing other stuff, like it shouldn't take. I mean, that's still a big chunk of time, but like it's not going to be like MMO like hundreds of hours kind of thing. Because obviously I want to make sure I can like play other things and like kind of balance out and stuff. So I think that's the thing. Like it goes early. It goes Founders Access goes live on the Wednesday, so you can play it a little bit earlier. So I think that's the plan. I'll kind of play through that for a little bit.
This Wednesday or next week's Wednesday?
Next Wednesday. Yeah, basically 3 days early access. And then or 2 days, I guess. Yeah, 2 days early access. And then obviously the Elden Ring the week after. Well, no, Horizon Forbidden West and then Elden Ring. So I need to make sure that I'm Lost Arked complete. Yeah. At least initially as complete as an MMO can be before Elden Ring comes out.
I typically don't just dabble when it comes to this stuff. Like if I want to play a title, I usually think I'm doing at least 20 hours of this because I want to see what the game feels like. But this month I might just dabble quite a bit. I might be like, let's play Dying Light for a couple hours. Let's just boot up Horizon, see what the first 4 hours are like.
Yeah. Every game coming out this month sounds interesting enough for me to check it out, right? It's like every game. Dying Light, Sifu, Lost Ark, right? Is that what it's called? Lost Ark?
Yeah, that's one. Yeah.
Like every game.
Yeah.
I can't wait. It's going to be a great month.
It is.
Yeah, it's definitely something I'm going to miss. Like, because I mean, like, obviously there's some that I'll play later. Like, because obviously for us, like, it'll be some of the team will play and stuff. So I feel like Horizon, I will probably have to play later because it's just like, yeah, there'll be a few that will definitely be on my backlog. I want to play Horizon straight away, but there's just not enough time.
Yeah, I really enjoyed playing Horizon when it came out, and I would love to have another experience like that. It is extraordinarily close to Witch Queen. Then again, I don't technically need to do anything in Witch Queen right now, or prepping to Witch Queen. Like I'm already good to go. But yeah, it's like it's mental space. Like where's your mental space at?
My biggest problem with Horizon was that I wanted to be playing with a keyboard and mouse the entire time to get that like really good pinpoint aiming with the bow, because I love the bow, but man, you had to be really accurate sometimes, and it would have just been, I think, so much more enjoyable to play that game with a keyboard and mouse. And then they released it on PC, so I'm almost thinking maybe I'm just gonna wait for them to release that one on PC for like Forbidden West, because
maybe.
I love the first one, don't get me wrong, but I would have loved it with a keyboard and mouse even more, I think.
I'm assuming it was a good reception. I know it had issues initially, which, typical for a PC
it did have
game.
issues.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure they smoothed that stuff out. And again, I think Sony has seen, multiple platforms, at least PC and PlayStation, seem to be cash cows. They've been missing out on that cash. And no reason not to have that on there. So yeah, it'd probably come out a year later.
I just feel like for me, Horizon's one of those ones that like, I mean, it's got like a load of side quests and stuff, but I feel like I'm just into Horizon for the story. So like, I will quite happily just when I finally get to sit down and play that, I'll just golden line that.
Yeah. According to Breyer, the story wrapped up at the end, and there was nothing else to do in that world.
No. The part of the story I cared about wrapped up.
But maybe there'll be a new part.
So Breyer just wasn't interested in the rest of the story, is what he's saying.
I mean, the side quests I will stand behind. They really were just not interesting.
Yeah, the side quests were okay. Yeah.
The most interesting part of that story was, how did this happen? What caused this to happen in this world? And they told you at the end of that game. So that was the most interesting part of the story
But
was
the world is
how did this
still
happen?
in chaos.
There's a whole antagonistic aspect that was.
Zavala is out there.
I just didn't find it that interesting.
Wow, I found it very.
I found the most interesting part to be how did this happen?
I thought Silence was a great character. I think it was Silence, right? Silence.
Yeah, evil Zavala.
Evil Zavala was great. In the end, I was like, oh, I can't wait to see what happens next. So, yeah. Well, should we wrap it up?
Think so.
Yeah. Anything else?
So for this week, next week there'll be a lot to talk about, but
there will be.
Well, or the week after, I guess, because next week, by the time the show happens, the games wouldn't have come out yet. But still,
basically every Monday, I think, is going to be packed with stuff here in February.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Every February Monday. So, looking forward to it.
Oh, real quick, this is for me actually. What platforms are you buying Lost Ark for?
It's only PC.
Yeah, it's only PC.
It's only PC? Okay.
Only PC. Yeah.
Good to know.
Wait, do you have to buy it also? Can't you just play it for free when it comes out?
I think it actually, because it's listed as free. Yeah, I think if you only need to buy if you want the Founders Early Access. So yeah, I think it's free.
Yeah, if you want to just hop in sometime this month or in February, yeah, you don't have to pay anything, right?
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is episode 126 of SideQuest. Thank you very much for hanging out, listening, chilling. Excited for all the stuff that's coming. It's going to be a great month. And shout out to our Patreon members and shout out to our Twitch subs for supporting the shows. We appreciate you guys. And if you want to check out some merch, we got merch at the stream. Well, I forgot the link. merch.streamelements.com/DCP_live. That's what it is. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Take it easy. See ya.